So you want to catch a werewolf in the game. You're playing werewolf, you don't know who the werewolves are, and you're really bad at catching werewolves. How can you catch werewolves? Well, it's actually quite simple. All you need to do is follow 3 steps. I mean, this is one method. There are different methods, but I think this is the easiest method. 3 steps, and every time you'll find basically all the werewolves. Maybe if some of the werewolves are smart, they won't be caught, but usually even smart ones you can catch with this method. So the first step is actually, conversely, you need to identify somebody who's not a werewolf. But also, if you want to catch the smart, like werewolves, somebody who is not like a seer or something, where they say, I'm a seer and I know. Because if they're a role which is like provable, right, then the werewolves won't do the next step. So find somebody who you know is definitely not a werewolf. Maybe somebody who's usually really bad at lying, so you can kind of tell that they're not a werewolf. Or some other way you find out they're definitely not a werewolf, which nobody else knows about. Okay? So once you've identified that person who's definitely not a werewolf, the second step is to set a trap for the werewolves. So now you want to accuse them. Accuse the person you know is not a werewolf of being a werewolf and make a big deal out of it. Okay, if you're playing Blood on a Clock Tower, and same thing can be applied. Put up on the stand that person you know is definitely not an evil team, right? Make a big deal, and then watch who defends them and who doesn't. Now this, it's not always 100%, but usually if somebody jumps onto because a good werewolf play, we're working backwards here. So if you're playing werewolf, right, a good idea is to not be the one throwing out accusations. But if somebody accuses someone else who's not a werewolf, then you want to jump on their accusation. So then the next step two to that is, if you're the town player, you want to be that guy making the accusation. So then the werewolf goes, look, they're being stupid. I've got to jump on their accusation. So watch who supports you, because you shouldn't have a good reason to be accusing this person, especially if they're a good guy. You should just be accusing them, right? You should have a good reason. So if somebody supports you on that, they're a bit suspicious, right? So then go, okay, fair enough, because at some point somebody's going to defend them. Like, why are you accusing them? You just say, oh, I thought they were suspicious, and then maybe you get accused, but you got to deal with that. They come up with some reason, like say, oh, their eyes were looking this way, and we had no other information. Just some reason so that you don't instantly get voted out. Now there will be some suspicion on you, which is also good because then the werewolves won't kill you because you just did some bad accusation, right? But also watch who defends that person, because whoever defended that person is most likely not a werewolf. Now there are some like evil team werewolf players who will defend that person because they want to be the hero, right? Because then they won't be voted out. They'll be like, oh, he's definitely a villager because they defended me. But so I'd say probably, depending on the group, if you're with new players, I'd say about 80% chance that they're not a werewolf, but if you're playing 60%, there's a good chance they're not a werewolf, but they might be, so don't take that as any information. But do take whoever backed your accusation first as information, because 90% they're the werewolf, or they're one of the werewolves. Now, you've caught one werewolf, right? And maybe they're not the werewolf, but most of the time they are the werewolf. Which is why there are also other methods, so you can't rely fully on this, but let's go with this. They're the werewolf, you've identified that. Now watch who they defend. Let's say somebody's being accused for a good reason, because at some point that's going to happen, right? Somebody's going to accuse somebody for a good reason, like, oh, I mean, if obvious one, I'm the seer, I saw that, and then they go, oh no, I'm the seer, or maybe the bodyguard knows something about the person, like, oh, I protected them, and Johnny really likes killing Jenny, so that must be Johnny. And let's say it's a good reason, okay? Johnny just likes killing you. So then you watch if he gets defended by the person you've identified as a werewolf. And the person who you've identified as a werewolf, when they accuse somebody, know that there's a good chance they're not a werewolf. And that way, especially as the game whittles down, you can kind of tell who that person is defending, who they're not. Now you gotta keep counting, guys, because if you end up in a situation where you have 3 werewolves in the game and it's final 7, you gotta kill one of the werewolves. So at that point, probably kill the person you're most sure is a werewolf. But leave the werewolves alive till you think it's reasonable that you can get away with that. Because at a certain point, I wouldn't even leave it to 7 players if you got 3 werewolves. I'd probably kill them off at like a bit earlier. because otherwise you might end up in a situation where they're able to convince somebody else, guys. Because even if you can find all the werewolves, it doesn't necessarily mean everybody else knows who the werewolves are. And the closer the voting is, so if it's 3 evil versus 4 good guy, there's a good chance evil's able to flip 1 good guy. So you got to keep that in mind. So keep them alive so that you can kind of see who they're defending, who they're not defending. But also, don't leave them alive for so long that you end up in a situation where you can't turn the tides anymore. So that's how you find the werewolf. Step 1, identify somebody who's definitely not a werewolf. Step 2, see who backs you up on that. It has to be a bad accusation. Accuse that person, but make it be a bad accusation. See who backs up your accusation. They're the werewolf. Watch who that werewolf is defending and who they're not defending. And then that's where you can get a good idea of who the werewolves are. Anything else to say? I don't think so. This is quite a short one, but there you go. Easy win. Easy win for all your werewolf games. Now you gotta convince other people, which I'll get to probably in a later video. So subscribe if you want to see that. But for now, that's all you need to know.